I never thought I'd be the guy to catch his wife cheating on him, but here I am. It all started about 2 months ago, right after our last anniversary. Amanda, my wife, had been acting weird, distant, dismissive, snapping at me over small things. I figured maybe she was just stressed with work or some personal stuff. She's a bitchy woman, always has been, but even her nastiness seemed sharper than usual. And then there were the little lies, missing phone calls, secretive texts, that sudden change in her schedule. It's not like we fought or had any major blow-ups. She just started shutting me out like I was an inconvenience rather than her husband. I didn't push her because I wasn't sure if I was imagining things. But I'd find little things, her phone left unlocked, messages from some guy I didn't recognize, and a strange pattern of her taking her phone everywhere, even into the bathroom. I'd catch her glancing at her screen and quickly locking it when I looked her way. That's when the suspicion really started to settle in. About 3 weeks ago, I noticed her acting even more paranoid when she thought I wasn't looking. She started rushing to hide her phone, claiming she was just talking with her sister, even when I saw her texting someone late at night. She'd brush me off, call me paranoid, tell me I was imagining things. But I knew better. Something was definitely going on, and I was starting to feel like I was losing my mind. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, so I decided to keep an eye on her. I didn't want to be that guy who snoops, but I was running out of options. She'd been increasingly bitchy and dismissive, and I guess she had a reason behind it. Then last Saturday, I finally found out the truth, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was late evening, and I was sitting on the couch, scrolling through my phone, trying to relax after a long week. Out of nowhere, I get an email notification from the reunion organizer, something about a folder with candid shots from the high school reunion last weekend. I didn't think much of it at first. I figured I'd look through it later or maybe delete it, but curiosity got the better of me. I clicked on the folder, the pictures loaded, and I started scrolling through. That's when I saw her, Amanda, standing next to some guy I didn't recognize, laughing, touching his chest like she was his best friend. And then I saw him clearly, Jake. Yeah, Jake, my childhood bully, the reason I developed anxiety in high school. I hadn't seen him since graduation, and I sure as hell didn't expect to see him in a photo with my wife during a reunion. My stomach dropped. I scrolled further. There were more pics. Him and Amanda sneaking off behind the venue, her leaning in close, whispering, giggling like they were more than just old friends. And then the worst part. There was a candid shot of them in a hotel room, or at least that's how it looked. She was in bed with him, fully dressed, but the way she was lying there, so at ease, like she was in her element. I couldn't believe it. My wife in bed with her high school bully during our anniversary month. How the hell did I miss this? I felt my chest tighten and anger surge through me. I couldn't believe it was him, the guy who made me feel so small and anxious. Back then, and she, my wife, cheating with him. It was like some weird, cruel joke. I couldn't sleep after that, kept replaying the images in my head, trying to process what I'd just seen. I was furious, embarrassed, and completely broken. I wanted to confront her immediately, but I knew I needed a plan first. I had to see what she'd say, if she'd admit to it, or lie her way out of it like she always did. That night, I sat in the dark, staring at the screen, trying to decide my next move. I knew I couldn't keep going like this. I'd always suspected she was hiding something, but I never thought it would be something this raw and cruel. I never thought I'd be the guy who caught his wife cheating with my childhood bully. And honestly, I didn't know what to do next. I just knew I had to find out the truth face to face. The next morning, I woke up with a sick feeling in my stomach. The images from the reunion kept swirling in my head, haunting me. I couldn't believe what I'd seen, but there it was, clear as day. I had to confront her, but I knew I had to be careful. Amanda was the queen of bullshit, and I doubted she'd come clean easily. I didn't want to just accuse her outright without some kind of evidence or at least some leverage. I spent the day researching how to handle this, ways to get her to confess, how to catch her in a lie. Honestly, I felt like I was losing my grip. My anxiety skyrocketed. Every little thing she did, her brushing past me too quickly, her avoiding eye contact, her snapping at me over nothing, felt like a confirmation that she was hiding something. But I needed proof, real proof, to back my suspicions. That night I decided to set a trap. I knew she'd be home late, probably texting or sneaking around again. I left my phone on the table recording, just in case she slipped up. Then I hid in the bedroom, pretending to sleep while I listened to her tiptoe around the house. An hour passed, then two. I heard her come in, loud and drunk, talking to herself about some friend she ran into at the reunion, trying to sound casual. I stayed silent, listening as she started rummaging through her purse, probably looking for her phone. She was making noise deliberately loud like she wanted me to hear her. I stayed perfectly still, waiting for her to slip up. And sure enough, she did. The moment she thought I was asleep, I heard her whisper into her phone, "Yeah, I'll meet you in a bit. Don't worry, I won't be long." That's when I snapped my phone out of my hiding place and turned on the recording. I didn't need much more. Her voice confirmed it. She was lying, sneaking off, probably to meet Jake again. I felt my blood boil. I knew I had enough evidence to confront her, but I had to be smart. I couldn't just blow up. I had to catch her in the act, or at least have her admit it on her own. The next day, I kept my cool. I waited until she came home from work, then called her into the living room. She looked at me with that smug, bitchy smirk she always had when she thought she was getting away with something. I laid the phone on the coffee table, hit play, and let her hear herself talk about meeting someone. Late at night, how she planned to sneak out again. Her face went pale. She stammered, denying everything at first, trying to blame it on a miscommunication or just a coffee date with a friend from the reunion. She spun stories, said I was overreacting and that I was paranoid. It was so typical of her, more lies, more manipulation, but I wasn't falling for it. I looked straight at her and said, "Who is he, Amanda? I want the truth." Her eyes darted around, searching for an escape. That's when she started to cry, but her tears didn't seem real. They looked forced, like she was just trying to get pity. She kept insisting she'd never do something so stupid, that I was imagining everything, that I was insecure. But I knew better. I could see it in her eyes, the guilt, the shame, the treachery. That moment crushed me. All those years of trust shattered in a second. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. My head was spinning and I wanted to scream, to shake her and demand answers, but I kept my cool. I just sat there, listening to her deny everything, lying through her teeth. I knew deep down she'd been cheating on me. With Jake, her high school bully. The guy I hated and secretly feared. The guy who made me anxious and insecure all those years. Now he was the reason my wife was cheating on me. It was one of the most humiliating moments of my life. I felt betrayed, angry, and incredibly hurt. How could she do this to me, to us? It felt like my whole world was crashing down. I looked at her, and for a second I saw the bitchy, manipulative woman I'd always known. The woman who could lie with a smile on her face and twist any story to her favor. And in that moment I realized I couldn't fix this. Not anymore. I had to decide what to do, whether to fight for her or walk away from the wreckage she'd created. After I played her own words back at her, Amanda's face twisted into something ugly, defiance mixed with desperation. She sat there, silent for a long moment, then finally spat out a string of excuses. "You don't understand, Tom. It was just sex, a one-time thing. It doesn't mean anything. I was drunk. It was just a stupid mistake. You're overreacting as usual." Her voice was sharp, almost angry, like I was the idiot for not trusting her. She kept insisting she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me intentionally. I stared at her, trying to keep my composure. Inside, I was boiling. I couldn't believe she'd lie so easily, so casually, like it was nothing. But I also knew her long enough to see the cracks in her story. She was good at lying, but not good enough to hide her guilt. I saw her eyes darting around, the subtle twitch in her hands, how she kept trying to dismiss it all as a misunderstanding. I felt the rage welling up, but I forced myself to stay calm because I knew I needed to think clearly if I wanted to get to the truth. My mind raced. I remembered all the little signs, her secretive behavior, her sudden mood swings, her sneaking around. Now I had proof, but I also had a woman who was lying right to my face. I didn't know whether to feel more betrayed or more angry. The fact that she was lying so effortlessly made me realize I couldn't trust her anymore, not even a little. The woman I'd married was a liar, and I felt like I'd been hit with a sledgehammer. I decided I needed to push further to see how deep her lies went. I asked her, "Did you actually sleep with him? Or was it just some hookup at the reunion? She hesitated, then answered, "No, I didn't sleep with him. I just met him, had a few drinks, and that was it. We didn't do anything." Her voice was trembling slightly, but her eyes were still stubborn. I knew she was lying again. I could see it in her posture and the way she avoided eye contact. She'd been caught, but she wasn't ready to admit it. That's when I decided to take a different approach. I told her I'd been doing some digging and I found the photos, that I knew she'd been sneaking around, lying, and that I was done with her bullshit. Her face twisted again, this time into a mask of rage. "You're crazy, Tom. You're just jealous. It's not what you think. You're always seeing problems where there are none." But I didn't buy her. Gaslighting. I knew her too well. She was the queen of making herself the victim, and I'd fallen for it before. Not this time. I told her she needed to pack her bags because I wasn't going to sleep under the same roof with a cheating liar. She protested, of course, flooded me with tears, begged me to forgive her, said she'd change, that she'd never do it again. But I'd heard enough. The trust was gone. The woman I loved was gone, replaced by someone I didn't even recognize anymore. I felt my chest tighten, my vision blurred with rage and heartbreak. I never thought I'd see this day, let alone be the victim of such a betrayal. As I watched her walk out the door, crying, I felt a strange mix of relief and despair. Relief that I finally knew the truth, and despair because I couldn't believe how deeply I'd been hurt. I wondered how I'd let it get this far, how I'd been so blind to her lies. That night I stayed up, staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. I felt hollow, numb even, like my whole world had shattered into pieces. I knew I had a decision to make, whether to fight for her or let her go. But more than anything, I just felt sick. Sick that I'd trusted her for so many years, only to find out she'd been cheating with someone from my past, the very reason I'd carried so much anxiety and shame growing up. Now I was left with the wreckage, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. The days that followed felt like living in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. I'd always thought I was steady, the guy who kept his cool, the guy who could handle anything. But losing Amanda changed all that. I felt like I was walking around in a fog, every moment filled with a dull ache and this gnawing sense of betrayal. I couldn't eat much, couldn't sleep, kept replaying that damn photo over and over. It was like a tape loop in my head, her laughter, his smirk, the way she looked so comfortable with him, so at ease. I kept asking myself why. Why her? Why Jake? The guy who used to torment me in high school, who made my life hell, who was the reason I started developing anxiety. Why would she cheat with him of all people? It felt like some cruel cosmic joke, reminding me that the people we trust the most can turn out to be the worst. I started questioning everything about us. Was any of it real? Did she ever really love me? Or was it just a facade all these years? I knew I had to think about what I wanted to do next, but it was hard. Every time I tried to focus, my mind drifted back to that picture, to her lies, to all the times she dismissed me, called me paranoid, pushed me away. I felt so angry I could scream, but mostly I just felt numb. I kept telling myself I deserved better, that I shouldn't let her ruin me, but the pain was overwhelming. It was like losing a part of myself, like the woman I'd married and trusted was a stranger, an enemy. One night I decided to confront her again, or maybe just get some closure. She had been calling nonstop, trying to apologize, begging me to forgive her. I didn't answer. Instead, I sent her a message. We need to talk, face to face. No lies, no excuses. I wanted her to see that I was serious, that I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way out of this easily. I knew I needed to hear her side, to see if there was even a sliver of remorse. But mostly I wanted her to understand. This betrayal cut so deep I wasn't sure if I could ever come back from it. When she finally showed up the next afternoon, her eyes looked red-rimmed, her makeup slightly smudged. She was trying to look sorry, but I wasn't convinced. I told her to sit down and be honest. She hesitated, then finally admitted, "I was stupid, Tom. I don't know what I was thinking. I guess I wanted to feel alive again, something different. It was just sex, I swear, just a moment of weakness." Her voice was trembling, but she was still trying to convince herself as much as me. Her lies were transparent. I stared at her, feeling a mix of sadness and rage. How could she throw everything away on some meaningless fling? How could she forget the years we'd built together? our life, our memories. I told her I didn't believe her, that her moment of weakness had broken whatever trust we had left, and that I couldn't just forgive her, not this time. Because forgiving someone who lies so effortlessly, who cheats and manipulates, felt like giving her permission to do it again. The betrayal was too big, the wound too deep. I decided I needed space to think about whether I wanted to stay or leave. I told her to pack her things and go. Not in anger, not in a fit of rage, but because I knew I couldn't keep pretending everything was okay. I told her I'd call her when I was ready to talk, but right now I needed to be alone. She cried, begged, pleaded, but I knew I had to stand my ground. Whatever I decided, I couldn't go back to that woman who lied and cheated her way into destroying us. I felt hollow, like I'd lost a part of myself, but I also knew this was the only way I could start to heal. Now, as I sit here writing this, I realize something. I was naive to think she was truly mine. That trust only exists when both people are honest. And I learned the hard way that sometimes the people closest to you can cut the deepest. I'm not sure what the future holds, whether I'll forgive her, forget her, or just walk away. But I know I won't be the same guy after all this. I've lost a lot, but maybe, just maybe, I'll find some strength in this mess. Or at least I hope I will. The days turned into weeks, and I spent most of that time trying to piece myself back together. Everything about my life felt shattered, yet I knew I had to find a way forward. I kept replaying her lies, her betrayal, the moment I saw her with Jake. It wasn't just about the cheating anymore. It was about realizing how much I'd trusted someone who was willing to throw everything away for a moment of reckless stupidity. The worst part, I kept asking myself if this was just a one-time mistake or part of a pattern I ignored for years. She kept trying to reach out, calling, texting, leaving voicemails, even showing up unannounced. I ignored most of it, but a part of me wondered if I was making a mistake. Was I overreacting, or was this the end of what we had? I couldn't tell anymore. All I knew was that I felt empty, betrayed, and deeply hurt. I started to question myself, my judgment, my ability to trust anyone again. I'd always been a guy who believed in loyalty, in sticking things out, but this was a different level of betrayal. One afternoon, I decided to confront her face to face again. I told her I needed to hear everything, the full story, her reasoning, her feelings. I told her I was tired of her lies and that if she was serious about saving what little was left of us, she needed to be brutally honest. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, and admitted she'd been feeling lost for a while. She said that the reunion was just a catalyst, that she'd been unhappy, bored, and that her mind had wandered. She painted herself as the victim, saying she didn't mean to hurt me but that she was confused and vulnerable. I felt my stomach turn as she spoke. Her words were hollow, full of excuses and manipulation. I could see through her, clear as day. She wasn't sorry because she genuinely felt remorse. She was sorry because she got caught. Her tears felt fake, her words rehearsed. I realized that telling her I was done, that I was walking away, was the only thing that made sense. I told her I'd had enough, that I couldn't stay with someone who lied so effortlessly and had no respect for our marriage. She begged me not to do this, to give her another chance, promising she'd change, that she'd go to therapy, do whatever it takes. But I knew better. I'd been down that road before, trusting her promises that she'd change, only to be disappointed again. I looked her in the eye and said, "Amanda, you lied to me for months. You cheated on me with my childhood bully, and now you're asking for more chances. Sorry, but I don't think I can ever trust you again. Not after this." The finality in my voice seemed to hit her hard. She collapsed onto the couch crying, begging me to reconsider, saying she loved me and that she couldn't live without me. But love without honesty, without respect, it's worthless. I knew then that I had to walk away, for my own sanity, for my self-respect. I couldn't stay with someone who lied to my face, who betrayed everything I believed in. The next few days were the hardest. I packed her things, helped her move out, and felt every inch of my world crumble. Watching her leave was like watching a part of myself die. I felt a strange mixture of relief and despair. Relief that I finally took control, but despair because I'd lost someone I'd loved for so long. I kept thinking about all the good times, the promises we made, the dreams we shared. And I kept asking myself, how did it all go so wrong? Now I'm here trying to rebuild, trying to remember who I was before all this happened. The pain is still raw, but I know this experience has changed me. I've learned that trust is fragile and that sometimes the people you love the most can hurt you the deepest. But I also know that I'll survive this. I'll find a way to move on, even if it takes time. And maybe, just maybe, I'll come out stronger on the other side. That's what I cling to now. Hope that someday this pain will turn into something better. In the aftermath, I've spent a lot of time reflecting, trying to make sense of everything. It's funny how betrayal changes you, how trust, once broken, can't just be patched up like a cracked mirror. I used to believe in the idea of forever, in loyalty and honesty. Now, I see that sometimes people hide who they really are until it's too late, until they've already shattered everything you thought was real. I've come to accept that I was naive, maybe even too trusting. But I also realized that I was caught in a web I didn't see coming. Amanda was manipulative, selfish, and ultimately, a stranger in disguise. The woman I married turned out to be someone else entirely, someone who betrayed me for a moment of reckless pleasure, someone who lied so convincingly she almost convinced herself it was okay. The most painful part is the realization that I can't control her actions, no matter how much I wanted to. I can only control myself. And what I've learned is that I can survive this, without her, without the lies. It's going to take time, but I'll rebuild. I'll learn to trust again, maybe not in others, but in myself, to notice the signs early, to listen to my gut, and to never ignore what my intuition tells me. I've also learned that revenge isn't always about hurting the other person. It's about reclaiming your peace, your dignity, your self-respect. When Amanda left, I felt like I was starting from nothing. But over time, I found strength in my solitude, in finally seeing myself outside of the shadows of her lies. I've started focusing on the things that matter: my job, my friends, my hobbies, things I'd neglected during the chaos. And I want to tell anyone reading this who might be going through something similar: trust is precious, and once it's broken, it's incredibly hard to fix. But it's not the end of the world. You have the power to choose what comes next. You can stay stuck in anger or pain, or you can pick yourself up, learn from the heartbreak, and move forward. Because at the end of the day, what matters most is how you heal and whether you let those scars make you stronger or let them consume you. I'm not perfect, and I'm sure I'll have bad days still. But I know now that I don't need someone who lies and manipulates to feel whole. I need honesty, respect, and love, things Amanda couldn't give me anymore. So I'm taking my time, rebuilding my life, and reminding myself that I deserve better. Because no matter how deep the betrayal runs, I believe everyone has the strength to turn pain into growth. And that's what I intend to do.